lateral wall of the pocket and to create stable, easily maintainable state, and also, if possible, to promote periodontal regeneration. If possible, it's not possible in each case. Okay. What are the different types of attachments? New attachment and reattachment. You guys remember? What is that? This is epithelial cells, right? This is connective tissue. This is alveolar bone. And here, periodontal fibers will be there. Okay. So after you do any procedure, this is dental epithelium. You will damage this dental epithelium. Again, it will form it. Okay. This is a repair. If the epithelial cells will come into the surgical area first, means it forms long dental epithelium. If this connective tissue cells comes into the surgical site first, means it will form connective tissue which will adhesion to the root surface. If this alveolar bone cells come into the picture, means it will cause the ankylosis. Only when you get regeneration is when these PDL cells come into the picture. These are the 4 cells which plays very big role in the periodontal treatment. Okay. That is the reason first they were confused with which cells will give rise to the regeneration. Okay, reattachment or new attachment. We want new attachment, not reattachment. Reattachment is nothing but repair. New attachment is nothing but regeneration. That is how the guided tissue regeneration concept has come. Okay, so epithelial cells will come within 7 days. Connective tissue within 21 days, like that. So we are supposed to give the time for the periodontal cells to come into the picture for the formation of the dental epithelium, connective tissue. Okay, so then only you are getting regeneration. This is like Mettler concept. So usually we won't get regeneration. Very rarely we will get regeneration. In all defect we can't do it. You guys remember about like bone defects? Bone defects? What are the different types of bone defects? One is horizontal and vertical. Okay. So horizontal means like you can't do any like regenerative procedure. If horizontal bone loss is there, you can't do any regenerative procedure. Why? Because it is just a flat surface. Okay. If any defect is there vertically, you can try doing the regeneration technique by using bone graft, PRF or GPR. Okay. Again in vertical we have different types. 1 wall defect, 2 wall defect, 3 wall defect, like that. You guys know about what is 1 wall defect?
One wall is
Sorry?
one wall is remaining.
Yes. Only 1 wall is remaining. Okay. So where you can do regeneration technique is 3 wall defect and 2 wall defect. In 1 wall, that means like all the other 3 walls are gone. Only 1 wall is remaining. So when you are planning any regeneration, something should be there to hold the graft material there. Then only it will initiate the adjacent cells to form the bone cells. Okay. So to fulfill the objectives and techniques for flap surgeries, to increase the accessibility to the root surface, making it possible to remove all the irrigants. When we are planning for flap surgery, first what we do is phase 1 therapy, scaling and root planing. Okay. So sometimes after doing that also, we may leave some sort of calculus deposition will be left out. So when we open a flap, we are supposed to do, like we are supposed to remove all the irritants from the root surface. So by using curettes, we are doing curettage and root planing both when we open a flap. Okay. And to reduce or eliminate pocket depth, making it possible for the patient to maintain the root surface free of the flap, and also to give reshape to the soft tissue and hard tissue. What are the different types of bony architectures? Positive, good, negative, correct? So it will be like this. Correct? It's a positive. Sometimes due to the periodontal inflammation, what will happen? Reversible fractures. So in that also, when you open a flap, you are supposed to check for bony architecture. If you feel it is negative, see sometimes you can't convert from negative to the positive. That time you are supposed to trim more bone, correct? At least you can try for with the flat architecture. Okay? If you feel by trimming bone, you lose the support for the adjacent tooth, that time at least try making it to the flat architecture instead of negative architecture. Okay? You guys know surgical therapy and non-surgical therapy, when to do it. So surgical therapy, when the pocket depth is more than 5 mm after doing the periodontal like spatial therapy, so then you can plan for periodontal flap surgery. What are the indications for periodontal flap surgeries are areas with irregularly bony contours, deep craters and other defects, deep subgingival deposits, calculus inaccessible for root planing, and sometimes furcation involvement, intra-bony pockets on the distal areas of last molars, and persistent inflammation in the areas with moderate to deep pockets may require surgical approach. So I was telling you now, before we were using gingivectomy procedure for flap therapy. What are the different classifications of flap? Bone exposure, after flap reflection, full thickness flap, partial thickness flap, correct? First one is what? Sure? Full thickness? Sure? You guys can make out? See, they have given incision. Forget this tissue, bone is exposed here. Correct? This is full thickness flap. Here, they have given incision in such a way that this is epithelium, this is connective tissue. Part of connective tissue is with the epithelium and part of connective tissue is above the bone. This is partial thickness. Okay? These are the two different types. One more placement of the flap after the surgery. You guys remember now? Coronal displacement, apical displacement. Okay? Non-displaced flap is after doing surgery, you are placing the flap where it was. Okay? Some places are like flaps are displaced by apically or coronally or by laterally. And one more is management of the papilla by conventional papillary management or papilla preservation flap techniques. What are the different types of incision? As you guys know, vertical and horizontal. So in horizontal, again we have three types. Here external bevel incision doesn't come, okay? So when we talk about flap surgery, only this internal bevel incision, clavicular incision and interdental incision will come. So incision, like this is the first incision what we use for flap surgeries, okay? So this will be given by using either 15 number or 15C number blade. This is also called as first incision or reverse incision. Why it is reverse? Because researchers started with external bevel incision. So it is exactly opposite to the external bevel incision. Okay, that is from externally 45 degree towards the tooth. This, can you guys see here? They are going inside the tissue and until we hit the bone. We usually in this incision we leave gingiva from the gingival margin 0.5 to 1 mm gingiva. Okay, 1 mm gingiva away from the gingival margin we give incision. Understood? Can you guys see here? This is the gingival margin. 1 mm away from the gingival margin we are giving incision. The incision line will go and it till you get the bone. Okay. So objectives for this is remove the pocket lining and conserves the relatively uninvolved outer surfaces of the gingiva and also produces sharp thin margin for the adaptation of the bone and tooth junction. Okay, this is very good if you are good at giving internal bevel incision. But what is the disadvantage of this? See, this is how we are supposed to give. Disadvantage is we are sacrificing this 1 mm of gingiva. It's gone. Okay, that's the reason we stopped using this. We can use this, but only thing is if we are using this incision in the anterior region, after any surgical procedure, usually 1 mm of gingival recession will be seen after any surgical procedure. Along with that, again we are sacrificing 1 mm of gingiva. It's like in the anterior region, recession will be seen. So patient doesn't accept that. So when you are planning for crown lengthening procedure, you want gingivectomy also and flap retraction also. That time you can use this internal bowel incision. Okay. Next is clavicular incision. This is very important incision. This is the incision what you guys use for even for extraction reflection also, even for implant placement also. Okay. If you guys learn this clavicular or circular incision, that is more than enough. This is second incision. Always we make. This is how we are supposed to place it in the sulcus. How you probe it, right? So directly you are supposed to place 12 number blade in the sulcus at the base of the pocket until you feel the base. You are supposed to put it. Then you are supposed to go until you hit the bone. From the base of the pocket until you hit the bone. Can you guys see here? It's going like this and hitting the bone here also. This is first incision, second line. Now we are going in the sulcus area. Okay. In this wedge of tissues. So now like we have given first incision and second incision, that wedge of the tissue is left out, right? So what it contains? It contains most of the inflamed and granulomatous area of that constitute lateral wall of the pocket and junctional epithelium and some amount of connective tissue fiber. That will be removed in third incision. See. First incision was given like this, second incision was given like this. So this was left. You are supposed to remove this inflamed tissue out, either by using R1 knives or by using curettes also you can remove it out. These are the three incisions what we use, but always we use second incision. Directly we jump into the second incision, that is clavicular or circular incision. Okay. Even for extractions also, directly you put it in the sulcus and go till the papillary area and reflect it nicely. Okay. What is the verticals? Where we can use this vertical incisions? See, those incisions we are given. If you are not given any vertical incision, that flap is called envelope. That is means only one side is open. Correct? Other everywhere it is closed. You will see here, they are reflected here. This is the wedge of the tissue. Visible? This is this tissue. This will be removed by using R1 knife. Vertical incisions are also called as oblique incisions or relieving incision. Always, when you are giving incision, it can be given both the side or one side. Okay, how it should be? It always should extend beyond the mucogingival junction. What is there beyond the mucogingival junction? Alveolar mucosa, right? It's a movable mucosa. Then only you can move the gingiva fully. However you want. Either you want to do apical positioning or coloidal positioning, you want that freely movable gingiva. That's the reason you go beyond the mucogingival junction, and always you are supposed to, can you see here, they are given in between the papillary area. You are not supposed to give like this. Either it should be mesial line angle of the tooth or distal line angle of the tooth. You are not supposed to give in the center of the tooth also. Okay? Always it should be in the mesial or distal line angle. And how it should be? How the base of the vertical incisions? You guys don't remember? Always base should be broader. Why it is not indicated in most of the cases? One is yesterday. Why? Because how the capillaries will run. Like this, correct? They are hampering the blood supply by giving vertical incision. That is the reason when you are planning any anterior surgery, try avoiding to give vertical incision until unless it is necessary. Palate also you can't give it. Okay. So posterior angle, sometimes what will happen? 7, you have a defect in the distal area. By extending it to the 6, 5 and all, you won't be able to reach to the distal area of the 7. In such cases, you have to give vertical incision for the proper accessibility. There, no other options will be left out. This is modified Widman flap. This flap will be done by using all the 3 incisions. Okay, internal bevel incision, first incision, then clavicular incision and interdental incision. This is the first incision, internal bevel they have given away from the gingival margin. Okay. Then they have given circular incision. Then they have reflected. After reflecting, they are supposed to remove this tissue which is left out. Okay. Then you are supposed to do curettage for the root planing for the roots and curettage for the soft tissue. If you give internal bevel incision, no need to trim the soft tissue. No need to do curettage for this. Why? Because we have removed all the epithelial lining in the incision only, correct? From the margin of the gingiva, we have given incision. In that only inflamed epithelial lining will go off. That is the beauty of this incision. That's why actually we prefer this. By doing that, we are eliminating the pocket lining. Okay? But only disadvantage is we are sacrificing this much of the gingiva. That's why we won't perform that. After that, curettage, irrigation properly, then check for the bony contours, which kind of like contour is there. Then any changes is has to be done by using straight hand twist. You can change the bony contour. After that, if you feel any defect is there, this is the socket. It will be like covered by all the sides of walls, right? So after reflection, you are supposed to check for the walls of the bone. Any defect is there or not. I was telling you, 1 wall, 3 wall, 4 wall defect like that. So you are supposed to check. If you feel that is 3 wall defect, that means all the other side, 3 side surrounding the tooth, bone is there. Then you can place graft over in this area. Okay. Then you are supposed to place GTR here. GTR means guided tissue regeneration, so that it will avoid the soft tissue, because over this soft tissue will be there, right? It will avoid that to come into the picture until the periodontal cells will come. By then, the regeneration of this bone will take place. Okay. What are the different types of bone grafts you guys know? Autograft, allograft, xenograft, isograft, then alloplast, right? So actually speaking, again we have different characteristics for those grafts. One is osteogenesis, one is osteoconductive, and one is osteoinductive, right? So what we want is osteogenetic, but it's very hard to get. How we get it? By doing autografts. Only autografts will have that characteristics. Osteogenesis is nothing but laying down the bone by itself. Osteoinductive is nothing but by telling the friends to produce the bone cells. Osteoconductive is nothing but it's creating an environment so that other cells will come into that picture and they start laying down the bone. Okay. When there is a 2 wall or 3 wall defect, we can go ahead with osteoinductive materials. For example, osteograft. Okay. So that will give like little bit amount of regeneration may takes place. If you feel any 2 wall or like 1 wall defect is there, that time you guys can use osteoconductive just as a defect filler. It doesn't help in regeneration, it acts as a defect filler. Okay. After the curettage everything, just check for the what kind of bony defect is there. It's very hard for you guys to like make out what kind of defect, because we only struggle to see what kind of defect is there. Okay. If you feel it can be grafted, then definitely go ahead with bone graft. Always go ahead with osteoinductive graft. Okay. Because osteogenetic autografts also can be done. That when you guys can plan, when there is any disimpaction is there, same patient you have any pocket formation is there, you are planning for grafting procedure. While doing disimpaction, you can collect the trimmed bone and you can use same bone along with mixing with the blood and you can place in the liver. Or any extra process, any ledges, that time you trim the bone, so same thing can be used. Okay. After that, you place GTR here and suture it. Call the patient after 1 week. But after once you do the suture removal, you are not supposed to check for probing time. up to 21 days. Why? Because connective tissue takes 21 days to form. You feel that already epithelium has formed, it looks fine. If you probe it, epithelium will be what? Weak. Okay, you go and pierce the connective tissue. Then the connective tissue healing will hamper. Once you do any surgical procedure, you are not supposed to check for periodontal pocket gap for 21 days. This is quick length flap, what we commonly do. Okay, very easy. That's what I was telling you. Directly go into the second incision by giving a clavicular incision. Okay, then reflecting the flap by using periosteal elevator, curettage, and suturing flap. Indications for this quick length flap is elimination of periodontal pockets and increase the width of attached gingiva, and for prosthetic crown lengthening procedure. Apical positioning and all will be no. So by using this clavicular incision, we can do that crown lengthening procedures. Here they are given vertical incision. When you give a vertical incision, always you suture vertical incision first, then papillary incision. Sorry, papillary suturing. You will see here that is JPR. This is bony defect where we place wrap here. Okay, we place GPR here so that this tissue doesn't come here. If we avoid this tissue to come here, till the periodontal fibers will come and new bone formation will be taken place. Papillary preservation flap to waste on. Any idea about that? In this, what we do is that normally circular incision, second incision you guys can give, but can you see here, it will end here only. Okay? Usually, gingiva will be scalloped and knife edge, right? So, you are supposed to give incision from here. When you come here, you are supposed to stop it. Okay? This is one side. Other side, once you come here, incision, you are supposed to give incision like this. You are not supposed to go in this manner. Or we go interdentally. You are supposed to go either horizontally or oblique like this. This papilla will be left out like this. Okay? Then this papilla will be pushed to the other side. Where we have not given cut now, it will go to the other side. If you are given incision on the buccal, can you guys see here? Okay, other side. This will be done only when there is a interdental space will be present. Because you are supposed to push that to the other side, right? Papillary area. So when there is a space, then only you can plan. If it is tight contact, you can't do this procedure. Okay? Why we choose this papillary preservation is, see when there is any defect in this area, if you do this, this papilla will cover neatly. So graft stabilization will be very good. Regeneration will take place very easily in such cases. That's the reason why we take this. And one more thing, after any periodontal surgery, recession will take place. Right? So if you do papillary preservation, the knife edge will be maintained. Or as other procedures, what will happen? This knife edge will become like this, blunt. After healing. If you do this papillary preservation, this will be maintained. The knife edge. But very rarely we do. For this we use mattress suturing. You can see here, horizontal mattress they have here. More alright? One more is distomolar surgery. As I told, pocket is present distal to to the molar, it's very easy. You start the incision from the basal of the tooth as a clavicular incision. When you come to the distal end, either you give incision like this in a triangular shape, or else like this. Two vertical incision and one horizontal incision. Whatever the tissue is present in this area, this is plug. So distal pocket will be dissolved. So it's a very easy. And one more thing, when you are doing like extraction for the 8, if you feel that pocket is present in 7 distally, the pocket will reserve itself once you do the extraction. No periodontal fibers, no pocket. Correct? Distal of this, 8 is present, you are planning for extraction of that, it will reserve on this side. No need to do any procedure. If nothing is there, distal pocket is there, then you can plan for distal molar surgery by giving triangle incision, always better. Just give triangle incision distal to that on the ridge, then remove that full tissue, then suture it here. Done. Come to the lasers fast. कितने बजे छोड़ना है? 5:30. कोई 6 नहीं बोल रहा है. 6 है? Very good. Any doubt in like flap surgery? Basic you guys perform is like quick as surgical procedure. Just by giving a circular incision and reflecting a flap, curettage, root planing, and suture extract. If you feel any grafting procedure is required, it's very difficult for you guys to understand what kind of defect is there and what to place. In such cases, you can anyway call us. What is lasers? Now you guys should tell me that long form or full form of lasers. Light activated, very good. Then
सुपरफिशियल lasers.
अगर एक बंदा भी बराबर बोला तो मैं कंटिन्यू करूंगी क्लास. नहीं तो मैं लेजर नहीं सिखाऊंगी. लेजर लाइट ओके, लाइट इज फाइन. ओके बस करो उधर. हाँ नेक्स्ट इंडिविजुअल टीच. ओके एम्प्लीफिकेशन. ओके
सिमुलेटर
वो देख रहा है मोबाइल पे देख रहा हूँ. देख लेना अब तो बोलो.
Stimulated emission of
पढ़ो. Laser amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. The basics has been given by Albert Einstein sir. Foundation was given by him. I hope you guys don't want laser history at all, right?
No.
लाइट के बारे में पता होगा ना? वो भी नहीं चाहिए. Light is a form of electromagnetic energy that exists as a particle and also that travels in a wave at a constant velocity. Physics भूल गए सब लोग. The basic unit of radiant energy is called photon. पढ़ लिया? The waves of photon travels at speed of light and can also be defined by two basic properties, that is amplitude and wavelength. Different types of laser light. One is UV light, then visible light, then infrared light. What is the difference between normal light and laser light? Sorry? Actually, in ordinary light में हम लोग all colors will be visible, right? Correct. But in laser, only one light will be visible. That is a monochromatic. Okay. If light goes in a same place and also in a same direction. Okay. That's why unidirectional, collimination and coherence. This is how the laser unit will be, the particles will be present inside. Outside that optical cavity will be supplied by electrical current. Laser consisting of a lasing medium contained within an optical cavity with an external source to maintain a population inversion so that stimulated emission of a specific wavelength can occur by producing a monochromatic, collimated and coherent beam of light. ये सभी चाहिए when you are doing lasers, okay? Listen properly this. So different types of modes we have. One is like emission modes, how the laser light is emitting. Okay, one is continuous mode and one is pulsated mode. Again, in the pulsated mode, we have gated pulse mode and pre-running mode. No need to bother about this. What is continuous mode? That means when you switch on the laser and press the foot control, it keeps emitting the waves continuously, no break in it. In pulse mode, what will happen? It will give a break of few seconds and it will keep emitting. Like 2 seconds it is emitting and 2 second interval is there, break is there. So that tissue gets cooled. Okay. So when you are using continuous mode, you should be very careful because chances will be there you may damage the tissue because it is continuously emitting the radiation there. Okay. And one more mode is, one is contact mode and one more is non-contact mode. Okay, when you are doing any surgical procedure, you do in a contact mode. That means you will touch the laser tip to the tissue. When you are doing any low level laser therapy and all, that will be done by non-contact mode, away from the tissue. Okay, 0.5 mm away from the tissue. So what is the significance of this emission? Energy strikes the tissues for a certain length of time, producing a thermal interaction. When the laser light has fallen on the soft tissue, what will happen? Thermal reaction will take place. If the laser is in pulsed mode, the targeted tissue has time to cool before the next pulse energy is emitted. If you are using continuous wave mode, the operator only must cease the emission, or else it won't cease it itself. Okay. So what will happen? So that thermal relaxation of the tissue may occur when we stop the foot control. What happens when the tissue is thin or thick biotype? Here, that's the reason I was telling, when you are planning for depigmentation, you are supposed to know the tissue biotype. If it is thick, what will happen? If it is thin, what will happen? If it is thin, it should be treated in pulsed mode. Okay? Why? Because longer intervals between pulses can also help to avoid the transfer of heat of the surrounding tissue. It may damage the surrounding tissue, right? That's why when you are using on thin biotype, better to use with pulsed mode. If it is thick, more energy is required, obviously. Okay, that time you can go ahead with continuous mode and higher watt also. Before we have different types of delivery system. One is articulated valve slit mirrors like this. After that, they have come up with flexible hollow wave guide form or tube. So now what we are using is this one, glass fiber optic cable. Okay. So in this fiber optic we have different sizes. Always we do this in contact mode. Okay. So what are the different sizes? So for perio we use 300, for endo we use 200, and for surgery we use 400 micrometer ka fiber optic tube. That will be different. So when the laser light has fallen on the soft tissue, what are the different reaction will take place? That is very important. What is important? Absorption is there, transmission is there, reflection and scattering is there. Which is important? Absorption. Why is it so? Sorry?
Absorption of pulse and transmission.
Transmission means what? It is going to the some other place instead of target area, right? It is going to the other side. It is reflection means it is redirected to the other areas. That means it may damage to our eyes also. It is redirected to other. Collateral damage will be more. If it is scattering, you see here, if it scatters, it's of no use. That's why we always what is absorption. When the laser light falls on the target area, it should get absorbed, then only we will get desired effect. Okay. the absorption of the laser energy by the intended target tissue is usually a desired effect. The amount of energy absorbed by the tissue depends on the tissue characteristics. This is very important, such as pigmentation and water content, and also depending upon the laser wavelength. So what is there? Gingiva has pigment, right? And also water content. That's the reason we use the lasers for soft tissue. It depends on pigmentation and water content. Scattering, where we can use? How the curing lights? When you composite curing, you don't know how it will be. It is scattered, right? So by using laser like lights for curing also, it can be used. Scattering kind of characteristics. Now this is tissue effects of laser irradiation. When the laser light falls on the tissue, either it may be photochemical, photothermal or photomechanical. So photomechanical will be for hard tissue. Photochemical, what happens? Specific wavelengths are observed by naturally occurring chromophores. Okay, naturally occurring chromophores, nothing but pigments. Okay, they are able to induce certain biochemical reaction at cellular level in both animals and plants. Okay, so again they are subdivided in biostimulation and photodynamic therapy. Nowadays everywhere they are doing laser therapies, right? For pain therapy, for TMJ, Aphthous ulcer, everything. For everything they are doing it. That is based on this biostimulation. At a cellular level we can see the changes. By using low level lasers we will get anti-inflammatory effect, analgesic effect, wound healing will be fast. After doing disinfection also, if they do low level laser therapy, healing will be very fast. For Aphthous ulcer also, we can do the treatment. Okay, and photodynamic therapy is what? This will be used in periodontics. So when there is a pocket is there, what we do is methylene blue base, heard no? That dye and different kinds of dyes will come. That dyes will put it in the sulcus, socket area. Okay, so what will happen? Certain bacteria will absorb those dyes, and when we pass the laser light, those bacteria will get killed due to the reaction. Okay, so that is what called as pocket disinfection by using photodynamic therapy. One more is photothermal. If the temperature is more than 37 to 50 degree, hyperthermia will take place. If it is more than 70, then coagulation and protein denaturation will take place. If it is more than 80, welding will take place and tissue becomes very sticky. If it is more than 150, vaporization and ablation will take place. Okay. So excision of soft tissue commences at this temperature. That's why when we are planning for excision, we use this amount of temperature. If it is more than 200, then carbonization will take place. So again we have classified lasers as low level lasers, high level lasers. Okay, that is depending upon the output energy. Low output are soft tissue lasers or therapeutic lasers. Examples for that are low output diodes and high output hard or surgical lasers we call. Okay, that for examples are diode lasers, carbon dioxide laser, FEM and lasers. Depending upon the state, that means like what materials like we are using, gas state or solid state. Again we have classified as solid state, gas state, diode state, and one more is oscillation mode, that is emission mode, continuous mode or pulsated mode. Nowadays trending is this low level laser therapy. Okay, that is what photochemical reaction, biostimulation. It improves blood circulation and vasodilation, and also increases blood supply, and also helps in cell proliferation, increases collagen production, promotion of wound healing, bone regeneration, and also helps in biostimulation, tissue repair, analgesic effect, and anti-inflammatory effect. What are the difference between low level lasers and surgical lasers? This will be used mainly for biostimulation. The surgical lasers will be used for incision and excisions. Power what we use is 1 milliwatt to 500 milliwatt. There from 3000 milliwatt to 10,000 milliwatt will be used. Here effects will be visible only after numerous applications. If you are treating any TMJ pain or NPDS pain at a It won't be a single visit. Okay? You are supposed to recall the patient 3 times a week for a period of long time, minimum 2 to 3 months. Then only you can see the, because it will be acting on the cellular level, right? Biostimulation. So, but in surgical laser, you can see the effect immediately. Here, no side effects will be there. There, if you doesn't use it properly, scarring chances will be more. Okay? Advantages of lasers are, it's like very precise incisions can be given, less bleeding, sometimes bloodless surgery, less swelling, non-invasive, and bactericidal effect will be there, less time consuming for the clinician, and reduce post-operative pain. Disadvantage is cost, and each laser has different characteristics because of their different wavelengths. We can't buy all the lasers, right? What we commonly use in dental is diode lasers. Okay? And by using, like without wearing specs and all, if you use laser, eye hazardous. In future, you'll end up in losing eye. Okay? And also invasively aimed lasers can burn or destroy healthy tissues also. Collateral damage will be more if you doesn't handle it properly. Applications of lasers in periodontics, where all we can use? Round lengthening for soft tissue gingival procedures and for aesthetic gingival procedures. Okay? Commonly used for gingivectomy, plasty, frenectomies, removal of papillus, any granuloma, fibromas, and also sometimes we use for pocket disinfection also. What is the difference between lasers versus scalpel? Cut, ablate and reshape, rough the oral soft tissue very easily with no or minimal bleeding, little pain. Okay, they tell like LA is not required, but it's different from person to person. Pain perception will be different from person to person. Sometimes while doing crown lengthening, if you put spray, it's enough. Okay, aram se you can do the gingivectomy procedure. Some patients may tell that they are feeling burning sensation. That time you are supposed to give local infiltration at least. Okay. Little wound contraction and minimal scarring. What we commonly use is Nd:YAG and diode lasers. If they are like deeply penetrating lasers, such as Nd:YAG and lasers can be used to cut and reshape the soft tissue. Even Nd:YAG also we won't use. Most commonly we use diode lasers only. Okay. These lasers have greater thermal effects, leaving a relatively thicker coagulation area. But Nd:YAG lasers is contraindicated when you are using for any implantitis patients because it will have a reaction towards the titanium surface. Okay. Actually, RBM laser is the best laser. But only thing is, you have to invest more on this. Okay. This is like RBM laser is also a soft tissue laser, and this laser is the most highly absorbed in water among the dental lasers. Okay. The width of the thermal affected layer after the RBM laser irradiated is very minimal. It will be used for even for hard tissue also. And RBM laser can be used for thin gingival biotech. Okay, not much collateral damage will be there. That's why we prefer this RBM laser for depigmentation procedures. It is a very safe and useful for aesthetic periodontal soft tissue management, and it is also capable of precisely updating soft tissue using various fine contact tips, and the wound healing is fast and favorable owing to the minimal thermal alteration. See, what you guys to remember when you are doing lasers is what mode you are using it. First of all, the wavelengths will come different. Diode if you are using, either it will come by 940 wavelength or 980 wavelength. Even some lasers are there, 680, 810 also. Some will come with together, low level lasers and high level lasers together, two diodes. Okay. So if you are using that 940 or 980, then you are supposed to check for what mode you are using. In that settings, you are supposed to check either continuous mode or one-sided mode. Okay. Again, we have in the menu like what procedure you are doing it. If you press that procedure, they will have pre-setting. Everything will be pre-setting. For frenectomy, certain amount of VAT they have given, jokes they have given. Okay. Just you are supposed to make it ready, then start doing it. If you want to change according to yourself, then press on the VAT, then you can alter it by increasing or decreasing. That again depends on whether you go ahead with the customization or you can follow their presetting VATs. While doing lasers, you are supposed to keep saline, because you are supposed to keep irrigating the tissue with saline irrigation. Why? Because thermal reaction will be there. If you doesn't do it, adjacent tissue may get necrosed.
Laser?
Laser kit.
And ಈ ಕಡೆ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಾಳೆ
ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ನಾಳೆ ಇವಾಗ.
Leave one and